All right, back here on CBS Sports HQ, check out the ranked-on-ranked games on this Saturday. Oklahoma in an absolute thriller against number 3 Texas, 34-30, went down to the wire. LSU, Missouri in a shootout. LSU had to come back from behind in that game. Then Georgia just absolutely whooped up on the Wildcats, 51-13. And how about Louisville? Really manhandling Notre Dame, number 10 team in the nation, 33-20. All right, let's welcome in my guys now, CBS Sports college football playoff expert, Jerry Palm, and national college football writer for 24/7 Sports, Brad Crawford. And gentlemen, we saw an Oklahoma-Texas game that was an absolute instant classic. Like, how will this one, Jerry, I'll start with you, affect the way we see the college football playoff?
Well, my new projection has Texas dropping from 3 only to 4 because I still expect Texas to run the table and win the league and probably beat Oklahoma in a rematch of what was a really close game the first time. And if that happens, 12-1 Texas conference champion would get in ahead of Oklahoma, who is not a conference champion. Also, Texas has a really quality non-conference win at Alabama, which Oklahoma doesn't have. Ohio State or Penn State could be in that conversation too, but they could only be 11-1 because they're in the same division with Michigan. So I think that Texas still has a really good chance, even with the loss today at 12-1, to still make the college football playoff.
I think it puts Oklahoma in very good position to make the playoff if the Sooners can run the table and join that elite group of potential 2 or 3 Power 5 conference champions without a blemish this season. Oklahoma's schedule prior to today was not very good. No wins over ranked teams. The rest of the slate's pretty favorable. So this was the marquee matchup that Brent Venables needed to win in the national spotlight in front of the playoff committee, and he did that. And just as Jerry said, for Texas, backs against the wall now. You can't lose another time over the next 2 months, and you probably got to beat Oklahoma again in the Big 12 championship game to get to that 14 playoff.
Yeah, so the margin for error now is razor thin. Let's talk, though, Brad, about how Georgia, they haven't looked sweet or dominant whatsoever to begin the season, right? They struggled against South Carolina. We know what happened against Auburn. That game went all the way down to the wire. This time, against Kentucky, they shattered them, like, on all levels, special teams, offense and defense. What did you see that really stood out to you from Kirby Smart's squad on Saturday night?
They played inspired football under the lights of Sanford Stadium. As you mentioned, it's the first time all season that Georgia beat a really quality opponent. It did go on the road and beat Auburn last week, but this was a nationally ranked, unbeaten Kentucky team. Carson Beck, a lot of questions about him, Georgia's first-year starting quarterback, had almost 400 yards passing in this game and 4 touchdowns. A start-to-finish tail-whooping from the Bulldogs tonight, and that's a win that really shows right now, heading into Week 7, Georgia is the best team in the nation.
Right, and they still are the undefeated or the reigning national champion. So until that is changed, yeah, you have to fear them and you have to respect them as the #1 team in the nation. So they got a huge win. Oklahoma did as well, and so many others. Jerry, who was your biggest winner from Week 6?
It's the Sooners. Oklahoma, had a really rough year last year and didn't look anything like what we're used to seeing from Oklahoma. Well, they announced today that they're back to being Oklahoma, and they're going to be a threat to make the college football playoff now. They've got that level of team. They had really good stats going into this game that gave us some sort of an indication, but until they got a win like this, you couldn't really take them too seriously as a national championship contender, as a college football playoff contender. And today they sent that message that they are in that list of teams that can do this.
Look, Alabama was left for dead in mid-September after that loss to the Longhorns at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Now, all of a sudden, Nick Saban's team is creeping back up on that top 10 after their 3rd straight SEC win. This Alabama defense, by the way, it's starting to work itself into a lather. Only gave up 3 points today in the second half. With LSU reeling defensively, Alabama's path to Atlanta is abundantly clear now, and we know what happens if the Crimson Tide can get to the SEC championship game and then beat Georgia for a league crown. Nick Saban is back in the playoffs. So Alabama is my big winner today, especially Jalen Milroe with 3 touchdown passes.
And the scary thing, guys, is Alabama still has not really figured it out completely. I know they look great great with Jermaine Burton and Jalen Milroe, but they still have not figured out the offense completely. So that's the winners, right, for Week 6. But, Jerry, we got to talk about the losers. Like, Notre Dame is definitely one that comes to my mind. What about you?
Yeah, that was my loser for this week because Notre Dame is now done. I mean, their season is essentially over in terms of, goals that they can achieve, because with the second loss, they're out of the college football playoff. They have no conference to win. I mean, they're still Notre Dame, and they're still going to try and, win a lot of games, get to a good bowl game and all of that. But the big goals for Notre Dame are gone the first weekend in October or the second weekend in October. And that's really, for Notre Dame, your season should not be ending this early. And it ended really in poor fashion today with a really poor performance against Louisville. And give Louisville credit, obviously a big win for them today. But, Notre Dame had a 30-game winning streak against ACC teams, and that was broken today as well. And their season is now broken too.
And for me, I'm going back to Athens. Kentucky's my biggest loser here to end Week 6. Most of us consider Kentucky's season to actually start this weekend after 4 laughers, 3 non-conference games, Vanderbilt, then they beat Florida last week. And to put it bluntly, the Wildcats whiffed on 3 pitches against Georgia. This game was never close. Kentucky got in the top 25 last week, number 20. Is going to be out this week after losing 51-13. So this was a major missed opportunity for Mark Stoops' team. Really one of the better teams he's had in Lexington, and they got purely outclassed by Georgia.
Yeah, I think a lot of people expected Georgia to win this game, but what they didn't expect is for the Bulldogs to handle them the way that they handled the Wildcats. Now, the AP Top 25 is going to come out on Sunday. And with all the storylines that are out there, what are some that you're keen on, Jerry, for that AP Top 25?
Well, Oklahoma's definitely going to move up, probably into the top 5 after that big win over Texas. And, of course, the Longhorns will come back, probably still be the highest-rated one-loss team, but behind all of the undefeated majors. So it'll probably still be in the top 10, of course. But Oklahoma is going to get a big move. Notre Dame is going to take a beating in the polls this week, and Louisville is going to be rewarded for that big win over the Irish. That's an undefeated team. They have a chance to move up considerably now that they have the kind of a win that's going to really get the voters' attention.
Yeah, I think 2 previously unbeaten SEC teams, Kentucky and Missouri, after losing Kentucky to Georgia, Missouri to LSU in that shootout at home. Both those teams are heading outside the top 25. LSU is going to stay in, probably gets inside the top 20 now. And then Fresno State. Can they come back and beat Wyoming tonight? If that doesn't happen, you've probably got Tulane moving into the top 25. And Fresno State's New Year's 6 dreams are essentially over if they lose that road game.
Jerry Palm, Brad Crawford, thank you so much for the time, gentlemen. Always appreciate your insight. All right, so we know we have the AP Top 25, but what people really care about is the college football playoff rankings schedule. October 31st is the first date that we will see a release from the committee, 7 p.m., and then December 3rd. That's the big one, 12 p.m. Selection Sunday.